If you are an administrator, manager, director, or supervisor in social services, you likely have faced some type of staffing issue. And it's such a shame to lose good people, especially when we're just not having the right conversations. Listen, this work can get hard, but what's harder is watching good people leave. Not everyone is built for this journey, but some people are. And if you know someone who is, take a moment, share this video, and let's connect.
I'm Shanelle Dupree, and I reduce burnout, confusion, and isolation in foster care. I help you help families by sharing tips, frameworks, and insight as a former foster care attorney, former social service administrator, current faith leader in my local church, and national foster care consultant. Listen, I want to invite you to sign up for the Sinking Child Welfare newsletter, simplifying your navigation and confusion in child welfare. Why? Because it is important enough for you to understand. Today, we are getting into it. So before you quit, right, before you throw in the towel, I want to ask you a few questions for you to think about and for you to consider. And listen, I have been there. I have been in the trenches. I have had the 100 plus families that I was navigating, and burnout is real. And you can love what you do, but if you begin to feel like what you're doing is not impactful or it's not going to change anything anyway, that's hard. So before you quit, I'm going to ask you just a couple of things. And I actually deal with this in some of the workshops that I do. I have a joy and burnout assessment that I'm launching and really excited about it because you know more than anyone that in this work, burnout happens a lot, and we have to know what the signs are. We have to pay attention to it, and then we have to proactively work to address it. Now, there is a difference between burnout and you've had some life changes that have it kind of reshapes what you're able to do with your family. And so I'm going to talk about both and just kind of give you some things to think about and consider. I knew that I was burnt out in child welfare when my husband and I took a vacation and we were getting on the plane to come back home. And I was in tears because I didn't want to come back. I felt like I hadn't relaxed in years, and that's hard. So it was like I was, in my 20s and I was just going, 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 accepting new cases, going. And I didn't realize that I was doing too much and I needed to build in rest to the work that I was doing. And so that was a cue for me that something has to change, that I can't keep going at the pace that I was going and think that I'm going to be all right. What I will say is that I was in direct practice and working with families for almost 10 years. And I think I was able to do it because along the journey, I found different things that just reignited my excitement. And one of the things that I found is one of the struggles that I had, which was understanding the full picture, the child welfare system. I saw how confusing it was for me. I saw how confusing it was to my families that I was serving. I also saw how confusing it was to the people who worked within the system, that they were confused on how to navigate the system and how to be successful. And so I went to the judges and I said, "Hey, I want to create an orientation class for parents who are trying to navigate the system. Whenever you start a new job, you always have this is what you can expect, and this is who you can ask this to, and this is a manual that you can reference back to." I said, "We don't have that in our system. Parents are just kind of thrust into this situation, and regardless of who did it or why, they're here, and now they're expected to get with the program and quickly because people typically in the system, they know their job really well, but they don't really know how their job affects the other job and all the other things." And so what I found is that when I was working with my clients, I couldn't be as effective if I didn't understand what they were experiencing and how I could help support them in that. And so I created this class called Sinking Child Welfare. May sound familiar. Back then, it was spelled CINC, which was after the Child Welfare Code here in Kansas. And I loved teaching that class. I collaborated with a social worker to really understand their system and the legal system and how it all worked together. And then I presented that to parents who were actually ordered to take the class. I taught it in person, started twice a month, and it was once a month. And I saw the transformation that parents had. It was like this light bulb of, oh, I can navigate this, I can do this. Typically, I would see parents present as angry, but they were really confused. They were really scared about what was happening to them, what was happening to their families. And so now they had documents, they had a process, they understood certain questions to ask and how could be successful. And so I feel like I taught that for 5 years. So that helped sustain me, right? As I was practicing, it helped sustain me. And then it got to a point where it wasn't that I was burnt out with the work, it was that my family situation changed. And so because my family situation changed, because and it was a few things that kind of happened all at once. My husband was elected as an official, a public official, and that meant that we used to be in practice together. So that meant that he was no longer, my law partner. Oh, goodness. I went through the things with that. Although I helped him, like I was his campaign manager. I knew that he was running, but it's like once he won, I was like, wait a minute, you're not going to be in the practice anymore? It's like, no. So he went and of course did that and start. And so that was like a whole startup, right? He's learning his new position and navigating now that piece and a very public piece as well. And then literally simultaneously, our support for our children, which happened to be his parents, passed away. So his mother passed away in 2016, and then like 13 months later, his father passed away. And so our children were young. So I looked at everything and I said, there's no way that I can keep doing direct practice in the way that I've been doing it. Oftentimes there are emergency hearings, there are, times that you just have to stop, be in court. I would get a lot of calls from clients and there were just lots of different moving pieces. And I looked at our family situation and I said, there's no way that I can do all of this. And so I had to shift, I had to pivot, but I wasn't ready to be out of child welfare. I just knew that it had to be different. And so if you are in a situation where you are either burnt out or if you have a family situation or a personal situation that requires a change, I want to just suggest that you think about what would a pivot look like? How can you still be involved in the family and child welfare system and be impactful and do what it is I'm sure that you are called to do and that you enjoy doing? There are so many different ways. You can look at, okay, if I can't do direct practice, can I do indirect practice? Can I do supervision? And if I can't do supervision, maybe I need to look at another type of agency that still helps families and works with families, but they're not involved in the way that I was before. If that doesn't work, then perhaps you could look at policy work. So there's always a need for policy development and someone who has been in the trenches and worked with families who can really help to shape policy that makes sense for families. And if not policy work, have you looked at research, right? Are there research institutions that need and require the type of work that's going to be beneficial and helpful for families? And so I just want to get your kind of your mind going. Maybe you just need a break, right? Maybe you just need to strategically begin incorporating rest into your work. Stop overworking it. Like no one's going to give you an award for not being well. And so wellness has to be important in the work that we do. Resting has to be important in the work that we do. Sometimes we have to pivot because what we're doing is not sustainable and only you know that. So I just want to encourage you to to look at the landscape. And before you quit, think about who it will impact, how you'll be impacted, how the families that you're serving will be impacted, and then what a transition plan could look like if you do need to make a change. Because you're important, your work is important, and stability for families is important as well. Don't forget to sign up for that newsletter. I do hope that this video was helpful to you. If so, like, share, and subscribe, and let's stay connected.